Good evening, beautiful people. Welcome to the Progressive. And this is presentation number 9. I'm surprised you got this far and didn't go to sleep without 10 coffees. Okay? Sometimes presentation can be boring. Well, they're always boring. I'm trying to make it interesting. So, presentation number 9 is about communication skills. Communication skills, people. Now, this first communication skill, ironically, is called listening. Most people think communication feels yammering like this. Communication skill is not yammering on about your own stuff. It's more about listening. Listening skills are very important. Anybody will tell you that. Anybody will tell you that who has had some degree of experience in the work field. Okay? So take care of all of the points. Be careful. Take notes of all of the points there. And if you have a comment about this or that, leave a comment. I'd love to know what you think. I love to know how I can make this better for you. Okay, this is for you. I've already done my working. It's for you guys. Okay, keep watching. Right, now let's talk about communication. We step into the next module now. Corporate attitudes. The first part is done. We talk about communication. Now this is one of the more central themes of behaviors, because as human beings we communicate, and we communicate in a multitude of ways as we see. We communicate in verbal, non-verbal, signs, emotions, everything. But what is communication in its essence, we will capture here. Very, very important for you to focus on all these modules and get the gist of it. Understand it. Understand what you are as a human, you can function better. First point, we talk about communication. So we talk about communication, but when you say communication, typically people think it's about talking. It's about you telling about your great ideas. It's not about that. Communication starts with listening. Fortunately or unfortunately, you got to do more listening. 80% of your communication will be in listening to the other person when you're interacting with humans. But this has other dimensions also, as we shall see. Now, what does communication in listening comprise of? I'll summarize this, but I'll read it out because these are important bullets for you to understand. So, communication, we have split into these many modules because each one of them is very important. We are talking about the first part here called listening. There are other forms, enhance verbal communication, being aware of non-verbal communication, learning written communication, cross communications, and communicating in difficult situations. So these are broadly the types of communication you encounter every day. Even if it's in your friends and family, even if it's in your institutions, anywhere, communication basically comes down to this many bullets. Yeah? So, communication, listening. Now there are 3 types of listening we have focused ourselves on here. What are those 3 types? Internal listening. What is internal listening? Constant passive process. Okay. You're always listening to your own internal thoughts, the things that are going around in your head. Those internal thoughts are always a trigger to your emotional states. A type of thought will trigger your emotional state. That is your internal communication. So you're listening. If somebody is talking inside your head, somebody also has to be listening, right? And that listener is most of the time your emotions. Because each thought will trigger an emotion. It will bring excitement, it will bring joy, it will bring sadness, it will bring dreaminess, it will bring any kind of thing. So thoughts are always constantly, the listener is the emotions part of you. And they determine your physical actions or inaction. If you don't want to do something, inaction. I don't want to do anything today, I'm not feeling up to it. Well, that's inaction. You're busy more listening to your internal thoughts rather than external ones. See how important that plays? External listening, it's a variable process. You can listen for emotions, state, attitude of the person, subjective, which we talked about earlier in the earlier slides, earlier podcasts, or you can listen to information, needs and requests and demands, objective. So there is a separation between subjective and objective, which we talked about in the previous podcast, yes? See how this all ties into one another? Then there is listening with intuition. Listening with keen observation to the external, subjective and objective, but both dynamically. That means they shift and change with every second. while listening internally for intuitive awareness at the same time. So we'll speak about these three bullets, and each of them, there are volumes of books written on each one of these kinds of things. Explore what is internal listening, what is external listening, what is intuition. So internal listening, now I'll read this in detail because these are important. When alone, you're always listening to your thoughts, which generate feelings, prompt you to actions. Even during taking actions, you're thinking of thoughts of the next step and the next step and planning of those, and it goes on and on. It is called an internal dialogue. You're having an internal dialogue inside your head, the voice inside your head, the discussion with itself. You question and answer, you answer the question yourself inside as a thought. Become aware of this. There is someone else inside your head who even knows of what is being thought, aware of the thought itself. Have you observed this? Try observing your thought, and who is observing those thoughts. You can separate yourself from your thought. Conscious positive thought and or visualization can lead to positive emotion. This is very well established. Positive thinking. There are millions of books written on it by now. Internal listening is happening all the time. This is what most of the self-help books are about. Giving pointers to various kind of positive thought, behaviors, actions. Right? Cultivating deliberate internal states. This is the key word here. Cultivating deliberate internal states can be personality altering for a person. That means you constantly think deliberately, consciously, inside your head and out loud. Better both inside and out loud to yourself when you're alone by yourself in your room or something. Say, I can do anything. I'm confident. I'm healthy. I'm happy. So even though your brain or your doubting mind or your self-critic mind may not believe it, it is generating positive emotion just by internal listening process, and it creates an optimistic energy in you, and you become solution oriented rather than problem focused. See the benefits of that internal listening? Let's talk about the next one. External listening. External listening has always got to do with one external person, at least one. You're always listening to one another person, even when in a group of three people. If you're in a meeting also, you're listening to one at a time. Focus is always maintained on one external rather than two externals. You focus on one, even if the other person is speaking at the same time. So this is why in a work environment, it becomes very necessary that important to maintain the decorum of speak one at a time. Don't have multiple discussions going on, everyone trying to prove a point. Yes? While listening externally, one can listen for a person's emotions. You can selectively listen. See, this is selective listening we talked about in the earlier podcast. While listening externally, one can listen for a person's emotions, state or attitudes, or information, or data, or commands or requests. Listening to both simultaneously is impossible, although it is possible to switch between both quite fast. One moment you may be listening to emotion, next moment you may be listening for information or data or request. External listening, although seemingly passive, requires you to be very, very active internally as well as focused. You have to focus to listen. You have to put your own internal states and emotion aside and absorb the other person. It is important that you listen for the sake of listening, not for the sake of responding. Most people listen, they're just hearing, they are not really listening. The difference between hearing and listening, listen means you are passive, but you are very active in absorbing the other person. You're not listening for the sake of responding. Oh, I have to defend myself or I have to respond immediately. This way you will understand better and can take time to respond accordingly and not provide an emotional answer to or irrelevant information. External listening. Last but the most powerful of all, intuition. Listening with intuition. Intuition means knowing something without doubt, without questioning or reasoning. Intuition appears to you as an answer without you asking a question. That's the difference between intuition and a thought. How do you differentiate between intuition and thought? You just know. Intuition is a knowing. Hey, I know this. I don't know how. I just know it. I feel it in my gut feeling. The gut feeling that you have, or the very strong knowing that you have. It goes beyond questioning because it appears without questioning. Every human has intuition guiding from within at various moments. Listening with intuition means you follow your intuitive guidance. Listening for emotions, states of the person, as well as intuition guides you. Listen for facts, figures, information, data, whatever your intuition focuses you to do. Listening with intuition is one of the most powerful listening skills. To be intuitive requires you to be more flowing. Remember the flowing and focusing we spoke of in earlier podcasts. Open to receive any thought, attentive, yet calm and composed internally. The only intuitive listening allows you to listen to all aspects simultaneously. This is a circular approach, spherical approach. You can hear everything. You can even hear what the person is saying, asking you to request, yet you can make out whether the person is angry, sad, happy, worried, concerned. That's listening with intuition. It's very, very powerful. Sometimes you may need to take note of the emotion about what is being said and why. At other times you may need the information and ignore the mode by which is offered. How do you decide what is important and when? Everything is not important all the time. Being human, understanding other humans' emotion is crucial. Yet, at other times, emotion may be just the current state of what the person is, but information or data is more important for your work. Intuition helps discern. This is the key word, discernment. It triggers your discernment, internal discernment engine. Every human has this. This is very dynamic and in the moment. It's always in the present moment. So intuition can be cultivated by what? Being more present. So intuition can be cultivated by putting your brain into an alpha state. You can research this more on Google if you want. Alpha state is a calm, meditative state of mind where one is calm, relaxed, and at ease, and yet very, very attentive. Calmly attentive. Meditate. Sit by yourself alone. Explore and listen to some meditative instrumental. There are plenty available on YouTube and many other platforms. iTunes. On a regular basis, even Spotify has many, to sharpen your intuitive skills naturally. Let just everything flow. Be aware of breath, of sounds, of your body, of your somatic sensations, emotions. Just let it all be, nothing to do about anything. Just be present with yourself. It's learning to be present in the now moment. That's what we are talking about. The more you are in the now, the more you practice it like an exercise, your intuition becomes very, very sharp. That's what you got to know.